All right, so 3 weekends ago was the Houston Marathon. Last weekend was the Miami Marathon, just got back, and it was incredible. It was a lot of fun. I didn't think I was going to be racing the Miami Marathon this year, but I was able to get in through a nonprofit. I bought a ticket through them that they still had available. It was a last minute thing, and I somehow found a flight to go down to Miami for $40. So this was a pretty cool experience. I get down there and it's Saturday night, and it's like 8:30, right? I had no idea that in January it would be that humid and that hot at 10:30 at night. By the time I got to the hostel, when I went for my daily mile, I kind of realized the marathon tomorrow is going to be insane, right? So I'm running the mile, and it's a lot of fun. I get to see all of Miami, and I don't know, it's exciting, right? It's definitely a place that I could see myself visiting quite often, right? Anyways, I'm running around, and I'm dripping bullets. January weather in Miami, and I'm still dripping bullets, which is wild. And so I get to the hostel, I shower, it's like 11:30 at night, and I checked, glad that I checked. The marathon started an hour earlier than most other marathons because of the weather, right? So at 6 a.m., that's when they were going to start sending people out. My wave was going to start at 6:30. So that means I had to wake up at the latest, 4 a.m. in order to get there on time, right? Shower, eat, walk over, and, bag drop, all the different things that go into the marathon. Okay, so it's 11:30, and I'm, internalizing this. I'm like, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. It's like, okay, well, at most, I'm going to get 4.5 hours of sleep. So that's the first thing that I learned from this weekend. That was a repeat of the Houston Marathon, is that I need to start getting there earlier so that I can go to sleep at like 8 p.m., 10 p.m., and get a full night's sleep before I go out and run a marathon. So going into this thing, I'm like, okay, at most I'll get 4 hours of sleep. But I'm sitting there, like laying in bed because it's just so hot. I'm literally sweating. No sheets on, shirt off, just so hot sitting there. And the people at this hostel, everyone just was awake watching TikToks and listening to music at like 11:30, 12:30 in the morning. I'm like, brother, there's a certain point where I walk out. These two guys are on their phones just playing TikTok super loud. And I look at them and I'm like, hey, can you turn the volume down? Like, I got to wake up at 4 a.m. And he's like, what? And I don't think he spoke English as his first language. I think English was the second language. I think he was Hispanic and he spoke Spanish first language. But anyways, I was like, I got to wake up at 4. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then he turned the volume down. But I go back into sleep, and it's like 1:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I finally go to sleep, and the dude above me is just making a ton of noise for whatever reason. Like, he kept, moving around and going like this. And I would wake up like every 30 minutes, check my phone and see what time it was, go back to sleep for a little bit, check my phone. I was literally in fight or flight mode, right? Flight or fight, whatever it is. And the entire night. So I get like 2.5 hours of sleep. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I can try to sleep for 30 more minutes, or I can get up and call it a day, or I guess decide that, I'm just going to start the day out with no sleep. So I get up, get all my stuff together, backpack packed, and I start walking over to the marathon. I was like, what? There's nothing I can do at this point. I got to run this marathon. I can't go back to sleep. And I was feeling pretty decent. I was like, all right, I'm just going to wake up with no sleep and get this thing done. Walk over, and vibes are good. I can definitely feel it's a little bit cooler now, but it's still pretty warm. It's like 60s, right? And 60s at 4 in the morning is not good. So I head over to the marathon, drop the bag, and I'm just waiting in line. And it feels like this one went by a lot faster than the Houston Marathon. Maybe it's because I've already done one for the year, whatever reason. I'm just, there walking around. It's about to start. Didn't have as many nerves this go around before the start. Did use the bathroom 2 times, so maybe that's why I was able to get it out before 30 seconds before the race started, like Houston. Anyways, I'm standing in line. We're talking with a couple people in the pacing group, right? And I was like, you know what, because it's so warm, I'm probably gonna have to go a lot slower. So I was with the 3 hour, 55-minute pacing group. I was like, you know what, as long as I get a sub-4 marathon, we're doing good. So I'm running with them. Race starts. We're talking with each other, chatting it up. It's kind of fun, right? Because last time I had one guy, Maurizio, whatever his name is. Maurizio, yeah, that's what it was. This go round, there's a couple of them that we were all chatting it up as we were running. And it was nice because, you know, it was very dark out in the morning because it was like 6:30 when we started. But we were all chatting it up, having fun. We get to see the sunrise with all the massive cruise ships down in this port of Miami, right next to Miami Beach. It was wild, absolutely wild. It's like a skyscraper on the water. That's what a cruise ship is, right? And you look out and see the sunrise, and it's really cool because it's literally the ocean. So we're running out to the island that's right off the coast of Miami. And that was the first part of the race. So we run over the bridge, and we're like 12 miles in, and I'm feeling great. I'm like, wow, this is actually a pretty good race. Pacing pretty well with the group, and it goes by really fast, right? Come around to like mile 16, and that's when the sun starts rising. By that time, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I could start feeling the heat. I was like, okay, this is where it kicks in. So I had 10 miles left, and it was bad. There was one point, right before it got really bad, I was like, okay, this is where I kick into high gear. You know, I did this at the Houston Marathon. I'm going to go up and see if I can, run a sub 350 pace, right? I'm on pace for 355. Let me do sub 350. So, worst mistake I probably made with my running so far was increasing my pace at that point because I was doing good. Right as the sun was coming up, everything was getting hot, and I was running faster for like 2 or 3 miles. I'm holding that pace and just starting to overheat a little bit. Get to mile 21, and I am exhausted, just out of breath, dripping in sweat. My shirt is drenched. I'm just dead, right? Mile 22, 23, I start slowing down. And from 23 to 26, I'm literally walking. The 3 hour, 55-minute, pacer group that was running, that I ran past, that I was running faster than the group, runs past me, towards mile like 24 or something like that. And they all finish at like 3 hours, 55 minutes. It took me an extra 25, 30 minutes of walking to be able to finish this race. I finished at a 4 hour, 14-minute pace, and I was on track to do a sub 3 hour 50. So a lesson learned there was that don't be too greedy. If you're up, stay up. Don't try to push too hard without knowing, like in those conditions, I had no idea if I was going to be able to do a faster pace. I should have just stayed at 3 hour, 55 minutes and been complacent with that. And then maybe towards the end, done like a sprint on the final mile, right? It's much better to sprint or to run through the finish line than it is to walk through the finish line. So just be cognizant that your ability in different circumstances might change, right? You might be able to do it in one circumstance, but in the other, it's not as good, or you're not as able, I should say. Okay, so then finished the marathon, and this is where it kind of gets crazy because my flight was at 5 a.m, right? And this is 11 a.m. the previous morning. So I had a full, 18 hours until my flight takes off. It was $40, right? So that was the only flight that left Miami. So I had to go with this, but I was like, okay, what do I do? So I go eat some all-you-can-eat sushi, classic. And then after that, I go to Planet Fitness, shower off, and it's so funny. I'm sitting in this Planet Fitness for like 7 hours, just like reading my book on my phone, and that's a whole nother story in itself. But basically, like, the guy definitely thought I was homeless because I smelled terrible. I was very sweaty, and I was like drying my shorts off on the hand dryer in the bathroom, and I showered without a towel, so I just used my shirt to dry myself off. I asked him for a trash bag. Like, the man thought I was without a home, right? But anyways, I'm there for like 7 hours, and so that just further makes sense. This kid is without a home. I leave, and then I head to the airport, and so it's like 9 o'clock, I think, or something like that, 10 o'clock when I'm at the airport. From 10 o'clock until 5 in the morning, 7 hours, I had to try to stay awake or fall asleep in the freezing cold airport, because for whatever reason, it was super hot in Miami during the race. Like, one of the worst 45-minute periods of my running career, let's say, just because I was so drenched and I thought I was gonna die of a heat stroke, right? It changed up so quick because that night it was freezing cold, and especially in an airport that's air conditioned, because it's used to being very warm because of the weather. You have the air conditioning and the outdoor temperature that went down. So whenever the door would open near the area that I was sitting in, this like airport seat, trying to cobble together a couple hours of sleep, because once again I had no sleep from the night before, it would blow in the cold air from outside, and I was even colder because the AC was on, and the gust of wind from outside would blow in. On top of this, I was wearing a pair of shorts, and I had a short sleeve shirt on that I got from the marathon. It was super thin. Then I had a jacket over that, luckily, my vinyl or whatever it's called, jacket, not vinyl, whatever the material is. And then I had my raincoat on top of that. So I was freezing cold, shivering on the ground, laying on my backpack, trying to make sure that no one was going to steal it. It was just this not a good situation at all, right? But pushing myself through that was incredible because, like, I can handle that. That's that, like, I know I can handle that. I know that that's not that big of a deal. If I have to wait for 18 hours for something, it's like, yeah, I can do that. No problem. And most people would be like, oh, no, I need to go spend $100 on another, night at the hostel or at a hotel near the airport, or I need to get my beauty sleep. Like, I just saved myself $100 by not doing that, right? And here I am. I slept a little bit all of yesterday, and today I had a good day and like back to normal, So, I don't know, just like food for thought, sleep in the airport. Even if you have the money to not have to do that, put yourself in a situation where it forces you to discover what you're capable of. You do that enough times, you realize that you're capable of a lot more than your current level of output. You have that knowledge, you start producing more, and it's just a never-ending cycle. You continually learn and recondition your mind that you are actually much stronger than you ever could have imagined, right? And that's a good life. But anyways, fly back here to Atlanta, somehow make it home, with like very few hours of sleep over the past 48 hours. I'm excited that I ran a 4-hour, 14-minute marathon on 2 hours of sleep in the heat of Miami. Now I have the confidence that that's some pretty bad, conditions for a marathon. My slowest marathon moving forward is probably going to be in the range of 4 hours to 4 hours, 14 minutes, So now I know without a doubt, no shadow of a doubt in my mind, or without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, whatever it is, that around mile 18, if I'm going a sub 3 hour 50 pace, I can probably hold it and finish out the race at like 3 hours 50. And that's going to be my new marathon benchmark. And then if I have a slower day because it's warm or for whatever reason, maybe like a 4-hour marathon is like the slowest I'll go. And if it's really bad scenario, no sleep, heat, all the different things that are thrown my way, stomach issues, whatever, maybe like a 4-hour, 10-minute marathon. But that's still really good, right? I would much rather have raced all 50 marathons this year, sub 4 hours. But at the same time, I'm going to be racing marathons in all 50 states several times in my life. Probably like 5 or 6 times. I'm going to race a marathon in all 50 states, most likely. So if that's the case, then, this first go around doesn't have to be sub 4 hours. I'll do it the second go around. The third will be sub 3 hours 30, or maybe by then I'll be sub 3 hours. And then the fourth, fifth, and sixth, I'll be competing at the highest level, and that'll be part of my brand, So, that is if I'm able to continue doing that. If I did this once, that would be incredible. If I'm able to do it several times, that would be more incredible, or just as incredible, honestly. So, to experience it once is enough for a lifetime. But yeah, then I came back here, and yesterday I ran a half marathon because I wanted to prove to myself that mentally and physically that I'm capable of running a marathon, and then the next day running a half marathon. So what I'll do this weekend is I'll run the Mississippi Marathon. I'll come back home and I'll run another marathon on my own. Then I have the confidence that for the 12 to 14 double marathon weekends that I have this year, I'll be able to do them. And that'll be one of the last pieces of confidence. After that, it'll be sponsors. And then honestly, before both of those will be like ligaments and joints, starting to do exercises to strengthen my knees and my ankles and the bottoms of my feet. And as soon as I have those pieces in order, sponsors, all those types of things, then I have the confidence that I can actually pull this thing off. Then I can start really throwing the hammer down on content because, I have the confidence that I'm not just, with every other series that I've done, promoting something that won't come to fruition. So I've learned from my mistakes, and I will try my best this go round to prevent that from happening. Altogether, Miami Marathon was a good experience. It's a lot of fun. I would not suggest running that as your third marathon ever because it was just very hot and it was not a pleasant experience. But looking back on it, it was fun. I'm glad I was able to compete at that level, and it shows me that I'm capable of so much more than I ever could have imagined. Waking up, 2 hours of sleep, running a marathon in the blazing hot weather, and I'm able to do that in 4 hours, 14 minutes. Never knew I could do that, but just unlocked a new portion of myself, No sleep in the airport last night. Then I come home, sleep during the day, run another half marathon. I'm just unlocking pieces. How many of these situations until I'm confident that I am just bulletproof, Not literally, but you know what I mean? Just like absolutely lethal as an athlete, So, yeah, that's that. Mississippi Marathon this weekend. Let's ride. I'll see you soon. Buenas.